Hello, friends. Good day, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, middle of the night, whatever it is. I am coming to you live from the cellar here at Second Glass for this week's weekly wine flights, the Cellar Chats. My name is Chris, and we got some wines to taste and to talk about. So this week we are traveling off to the Central Loire, or the Middle Loire, however you want to refer to it. What does that even mean? We're talking Loire Valley, France, and we're talking the two sub-appellations that fall in the middle. So for the most part, the Loire Valley, which butts up against the Atlantic coast and runs all the way inland, basically runs basically not too far west of Chablis and a little bit south of Paris. So on the far west side against the Atlantic coast, you have the Muscadet region, the Pays Nantais, which is basically the region that runs along the Loire River. Well, everything runs along the Loire River, but it's the coastal area. We're talking fresh, crisp, salty white wines primarily. And then on the far east, you have essentially what I like to just call Sauvignon Blanc heaven. And that's where you're going to find Sancerre, and Menetou-Salon, and Pouilly-Fumé, and you'll find Concy, and all of these other really amazing regions, really known for Sauvignon Blanc. There is some red wine that's grown further south, but again, we are in Sauvignon Blanc heaven. And then in the middle, you've got this mass area that is really the kind of the bulk of wine production for all of the Loire, which is Anjou-Saumur, which butts right up against to the Muscadet, like western region, and then the Touraine. Now, many of you are probably familiar with Touraine. I would say that is where the majority of your everyday table wine, bistro, like easy drinking, very affordable wines come from. And a couple of these actually come from, well, one of these comes from the Touraine. So this is an area that also is host to some of the greatest appellations for Cabernet Franc, for Chenin Blanc. We're talking Vouvray, we're talking Chenin, we're talking Bourgogne. We're talking a handful of amazing places, but we're not having, we are having one of those. We're not having all of those. All right, let's get into it. So we're going to start out with bubbles because, duh, bubbles. This is Les Athlètes du Vin. They're Gardien des Boules, which is super fun. And then we're going to jump over to Anjou for our last two wines. So we're starting in the Touraine region with the Chenin Blanc bubbles, and then over to Anjou with Petit, Clocher, their Anjou Blanc, 100% Chenin Blanc, and then finishing it out with Domaine de la Bergerie, their La Cerisaie Anjou Rouge. So let's do this thing. Let's drink some bubbles. So, I mean, I never get tired of bubbles, so I'm not going to pretend like I ever do. This area has been making bubbles for a very long time, particularly in like the Touraine region. So within what I would call like the greater Touraine, you have a little area. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called, oh my gosh, my brain stopped working and I can't remember what it's called. Anyways, you have Vouvray. Wow, my brain is really good today. So Vouvray, probably one of the most famous regions for Chenin Blanc production of all types. You know, they make sparkling Vouvray, they make sweet Vouvray, they make dry Vouvray, they make everything in between. It's all delicious. It's all amazing. And it's basically the main reason that anybody makes sparkling Chenin Blanc anywhere else. So again, this comes from the Touraine area. Les Athlètes du Vin. It's a gathering of like-minded natural wine producers throughout the Loire Valley that say, hey, I'm tired of selling my bulk wine and getting, pennies on the dollar for somebody to make a wine and then sell it for way too much goals. And we're back. Sorry, there was a little connection issue. Apologize for that. Wow. This smells great. Method Champenois, so classic traditional style. Secondary fermentation in bottle. Laid down for 24 months before release. Non-vintage. It smells great. It's a little like citrus, lemon curd. A little bit of like kind of bready, yeasty characteristics, but it's not like heavily in that direction. It's done extra brut, so it has no dosage. Yeah. It's got this almost like I'm going to say it because this is the only, it's got this woolly lanolin thing that really good Chenin Blanc always has, or typically has, that I think is so appealing and beautiful, along with some like stone fruit, little citrus, little mineral. It's super fresh, crisp. The bubbles are great. It's all the things we need right now, although we are fortunately having a little bit of a heat wave break today at the moment. It was like 110 heat index yesterday on Monday. But today it's quite nice outside, at least at the moment. All right, again, that was Les Athlètes du Vin, their Gardien des Boules, 100% Chenin Blanc sparkling wine. All right, from the Touraine. Popping over to Anjou, to this little lovely beast, Domaine du Petit Clocher. This is their 2020 Anjou Blanc. Now, Anjou, Saumur, and Touraine are really kind of known for the same two grape varieties. No surprise. They're Central Loire. It's sort of the home of two primary grapes that really define this area. Chenin Blanc and Cabernet Franc. So, and both of them do them really well, but stylistically quite different. So for me, Anjou tends to have a little more richness and depth and texture to their Chenin Blancs, whereas Touraine is a little more cleaner, a little crisper, especially as the further you move east, as you get closer to basically what is actually deemed Center Loire, but it's actually the far east side of Loire where Sancerre is. You start getting more limestone heavy soils. You get, chalk and things of that nature, which lend themselves to a lighter, fresher wine. In Anjou, if I'm not mistaken, there's a little bit denser soils. I think there's a mix of clay. Someone's going to correct me, but there's probably clay somewhere, so I'm not entirely wrong. But also with this wine, it gets done in a little bit of oak, so there is more richness and texture. I've not had this wine. I'm guesstimating. We're going to find out in a minute. Woo, yeah. Really bright, but at the same time, a lot of rich, ripe fruit on the nose. Again, more of that like citrus kind of lemon curd, but much more intense. Whereas the sparkling was what I would call very lifted and light and vibrant. This has got richness and depth to that. Again, where I kind of think of that like lemon curd, even though it's like very bright, high acid, lemon citrusy, it's also kind of rich and viscous. Oh, wow. That is really good. Again, first time having it. I know I said that a lot, but I think it's important to let people know when I'm tasting these. Oftentimes, I've not tasted some of these wines. Celeste and I kind of, we go back and forth making these decisions. Some things she's kind of picked out, some things I make suggestions on, and it makes it super fun and exciting, and it kind of gives everybody, I think, the same feel as you get when you come in, because a lot of people have not had these wines. At least I hope that's what we're doing. Otherwise, then I'm way off kilter. Let me know. Does it seem useful to you? Back to this wine, which is really lovely. Like I said, fresh and crisp, and it has that sense of richness on the nose, but it's not overwhelming. It doesn't feel heavy or like, sweet or vanilla like lace, like a fuller bodied Chardonnay really smells that way. But then on the palate, it's kind of like ripe apricot. Again, more of that like concentrated citrus character, almost like a lemon meringue kind of character, I think. You definitely get the mouthfeel of the oak. I'm getting a little bit of oak spice. So it is really lovely. I think anybody would like this wine. If you don't like this wine, then you've missed the boat. Maybe white wine's not for you. Again, that was Domaine du Petit Clocher, their Anjou Blanc, 100% Chenin Blanc. Even though the first wine is sparkling wine and obviously is going to taste and feel very differently because it bubbles, I always think it's fun to have the same grape variety from relatively similar areas side by side, because they really are so different. I mean, so much mineral and freshness. This is more textured, it's richer, it's got a longer finish. Not one or the other is better than the other. They're just very, very different. I think that's so much fun. It's one of the reasons I love wine so much. because it's hard to get bored. If you're getting bored with your wine lineup and what you drink and enjoyed, then you're not trying hard enough, because there's entirely too much to be had out there. All right, continuing with our Anjou theme on the last two here. This is Domaine de la Bergerie, their Anjou Rouge, La Cerisaie, which is the cherry. I do believe it refers to the color of it. Could be the name of the vineyard. I don't really remember. 100% Cab Franc. I have a soft spot for Cab Franc. Maybe it's because it gets overlooked. People don't really understand it. I also have I'm a fan of like that little bit of vegetal spice character you get with Cab Franc. You know, whenever I'm trying to convince people to enjoy more Cabernet Franc, to me it has the depth, the fruit character, and like the body of Cabernet Sauvignon. But it's got the acidity and freshness and a little bit more, I guess what I will deem wildness that you could expect from like a Pinot Noir or something of that nature, that it is perfect for summertime. It still goes with foods you would have with Cabernet Sauvignon, but it doesn't overwhelm that dish. So it makes it, I think, one of the more versatile wines, at least from like the spectrum of traditional grapes that most people think of, you know, Cabernet Sauvignon, Franc, Merlot, yada, 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 you get the idea. But it's often overlooked, so maybe that's why I like it. Maybe I just like the underdog. I mean, spot on Cab Franc on the nose. Can't miss it. It's a little peppery, kind of like a peppered game meat. It's a little like gamey in style. A little herbaceous. This definitely leans more like what I'd say like peppery arugula, not so much like sometimes Cab Franc can go jalapeno, it can go really far bell pepper. This is much softer, more subtle. It's almost like a licorice anise character that's really lovely, and then just like deep blackberries. Yeah. Great mouthfeel, great texture. There's a decent amount of tannins here. Again, it's not like Cabernet Sauvignon tannins that have been aged in, you know, oak barrels for 2 years or anything like that. If I remember correctly, this is all done in stainless steel. So meant to be a fresher, lighter, but it has structure. I mean, this is classically paired with, you know, like stews and roasts. And you can totally see why if you do like a beef stew or something like that, although it's very cold weather food. You know, I'm not a beef stew fan anyways, but when it's 95 degrees outside, I'm definitely not a stew fan. I mean, not like the person, but like the food. But like, I mean, I'm just thinking like maybe like lamb pops on the grill, or, you know, I think, again, I know I've said this before, but the cowboy steak here, people love it. That's the way to go with this. Some fingerling potatoes, call it a day. Yeah, great way to wrap it up. Again, darker fruits, all that fruit and structure of Cabernet Sauvignon without feeling heavy or overwhelming, and that lack of oak really gives it a sense of freshness. Put a little chill on this while you're sitting outside here, and you have got yourself a perfect afternoon. All right, do the roundup. Started out, again, it's all about Central Loire this week. Les Athlètes du Vin, their Gardien des Boules. Chenin Blanc, sparkling wine. Popping over to Anjou for Petit, Clocher, their Anjou Blanc. And rounding it out with the lovely, lovely Domaine de la Bergerie, Anjou Rouge, Les Cerisaie. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming into second class, having the flights, having a good meal, supporting small businesses, being amazing people in general, and, you know, continue having fun out there. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.